Who is Grant Cardone? Is he the guy who started billion-dollar real estate companies with nothing? The honest and inspiring hero in this story?
Business. I have 5 companies now. We'll do 100 million this year. I started every one of those companies with no money. Zero money, man.
Or is he the scammer who made millions manipulating his audience into buying his courses?
So anyway, we created Cardone Capital. We've raised $223 million.
Do you raise from accredited investors or unaccredited or both? Anyone?
In 20 months.
In 20 months.
You know what that takes.
That's great. So what?
220 million.
Who's your typical investor? It stems from this ridiculously idiotic podcast I had with Grant Cardone, who literally, in my book, knows probably about sales as like, I don't know, like someone from one of those munchkins from The Wizard of Oz.
Born on March 21st, 1958 in Lake Charles, Louisiana, where he told the story in many of his books that he had to work very hard for his money.
And Sicily came over on a boat, so the work ethic was right there in society. This is, 50, 60, 70 years ago, right? So different work ethic. Came to a country, you had to plow, you had to push, you had to shove, you had to work, you had to create something.
He mentions his parents were both immigrants and struggling to make ends meet. But then, all of a sudden, they were living happily, even buying a nice house. But just as they were enjoying the middle-class life, Grant's father, Curtis Lewis Cardone, suddenly dies of a heart attack when Grant was just 10. Now, you may be asking, what has changed? But let's rewind a bit. Grant leaves out how much his father made. You see, they weren't living terribly by any means. They actually owned a huge property in rural Louisiana, which eventually led into the selling of this house. Cardone's mother then went on to live a very frugal lifestyle.
My mom had to sell a dream house that was paid for in cash. My dad bought a dream house a year and a half before he died. We all went in, celebrated. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. This is crazy. This is great. We made it to the middle class. My dad dies. My mom has to sell the house literally a week after my dad dies.
As Cardone himself became then very isolated because of the death of his father, he became depressed and resorted to drugs as a solution.
I hate the life I'm leading. I hate the jobs I've lost. I thought I was going to be a baseball player. Couldn't make that work. Okay? I actually chose the drugs over this love of baseball.
He would tell himself every day that he would quit, but not being able to. Then, there was one rainy night at 23 years old where his local dealer Grant, refers to as Danny, comes to give Grant his usual drugs.
I lived on one half of this thing. One rainy night, this dude Danny comes in with drugs. Another day where I said, I'm gonna quit today. Now it's 11 o'clock at night. I didn't quit. 10 times I failed again. Danny leaves the house and I let him out the front door, and this other big dude in the rain, a rainy Louisiana night, puts a 45 caliber pistol in my face, right here, okay? I had a plate in my hand, and I broke it in his face, like just cracked it in his face. Thing breaks and he becomes like a monster. This scar right here in my head is he took that 45 caliber and jammed it in my face.
Grant was rushed to the hospital, blood everywhere, with a slim chance of survival. He had to get over 70 stitches to keep his face intact. It was right then and there where Grant knew he had to stop, as he said it himself.
I spent 3 days in the hospital and I'm like, I'm done, no more drugs. Okay, literally, I can't even recognize myself anymore.
From then on, Cardone was in rehab for a month, 29 days to be exact. His then counselor told him that he just wouldn't make it on the outside world. While those words would have set most people up for failure, they proved to be a turning point for Grant. As he mentions in his book and in a LinkedIn article, he decided to use his addictive personality for good. Determined to overcome these challenges, Cardone pursued higher education. He earned a degree in accounting, where then he channeled his energy into sales. where then he began to make a name for himself, where he would spend most of his days grinding 10 to 12 hours at the office. Cardone's relentless drive led him to establish several ventures, including Cardone Capital, a private equity real estate firm managing a multi-family portfolio valued at over $4.7 billion.
Cardone Capital, real estate investing for everyday investors. With Cardone Capital, you won't find complex deals or confusing structures. Our real estate investing funds are created through real value and great assets.
He also founded the 10X Growth Conference, billed as the world's largest business and entrepreneur conference. But throughout his journey, Grant learned something that marked the downfall of Grant Cardone as we knew and loved. What's the most important thing to people? Money. If you're able to teach people how to make more of it, then you've just created a solution to a problem. But the way Grant went around it is by using crazy claims such as,
I've been telling people this for, 15 years. You need to make more money, okay? You're making 250 grand a year and you have no money left over. I've been saying this for years. There was a video I did about if you make 400 grand working for an insurance company where you could make $4 million, you should be ashamed of yourself as a father and a husband.
Grant uses this as a psychological tactic known as FOMO, fear of missing out, where in Grant's situation, he's overhyping promises and actually employing manipulative sales tactics, a statement that many view as just unrealistic and misleading. His main tactic is making an unreasonable claim, such as making $400K a year. People then feel pressured to want to make $400K a year and then buy his course. Another example is when Grant Cardone was critiqued by Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort.
I'm the Red Bull, I'm not.
Question, okay? So if you're a salesman, a young salesman out in the field, let's say you're selling insurance, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you knock on someone's door and say, I'm not interested in insurance.
I understand.
Would you keep pushing and pushing and pushing?
No, I totally understand. But I don't believe that they're not interested is an interest level.
Okay.
Not interested is better than before you hit that door and they said they weren't interested. Not interest. No interest is a level of interest.
Jordan asked simple questions to Grant, who then, rather answering the question, decided to disagree with everything he said.
It's like there's no strategy. Just tell them, here's my product, here's what it costs. It's the most ridiculous statement I ever heard. So people pay you for that, buddy?
Grant says there's no strategy in sales, despite selling a course on a strategy only he knows that will 10x your actual growth. Belfort later went on to different podcasts to describe Cardone's knowledge on sales.
You know, Grant Cardone was very nice to come on my podcast, and I think what happened was, I don't think Grant is used to people disagreeing with him, because he said some stuff that was just weird, didn't make any sense, and everyone that saw the podcast said, wow, what's going on with this guy? Like, he doesn't know the most basic things about sales.
Another recent issue is Grant's 10X Growth Conference. It's supposed to be a way for entrepreneurs to connect and learn from the best, while also having famous celebrities like Kevin Hart, Steve Harvey, Snoop Dogg, with each ticket costing anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. And by far, the biggest allegation causing Cardone to lose millions and possibly jail time for white-collar crime is when Gary Brecka, who is known for helping people like Dana White and, of course, in this case, Grant Cardone, where they came to terms on a company that was supposed to help people reverse their age. They created this company, him and Cardone, which they called 10X Health. But then Gary actually leaving because of underwhelming performance by Grant. More allegations are thrown left and right, and they both just start lawyering up. Gary Brecka mentioned that Grant Cardone's real estate businesses, Cardone Capital, is under FBI investigation. Although this claim hasn't been officially confirmed by the FBI, some speculate the investigation could be linked to securities fraud or financial misconduct. Legal issues have also plagued Cardone. In 2023, a class action lawsuit alleged that he misled investors by overpromising returns and downplaying financial liabilities.
Class action suit that has been ongoing now since, I don't know, I think 21, right after COVID. I gave an individual an opportunity to invest with us in Cardone Capital. He put money in 2 different funds.
Although the lawsuit was eventually dismissed, it highlighted the concerns about transparency in his investment ventures. In another high-profile case during 2023, Cardone filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against former T-Mobile CEO John Legere, accusing him of making false and damaging statements, calling him a con artist and a scammer.
Hey, Grant, you are the biggest bullshit artist on the planet.
Although this could have been easily swept under the rug, Cardone used his wealth to accuse Legere of defaming him. See, public opinion on Cardone is honestly divided. While many actually admire his rags to riches story and his motivational approach to life, and others just criticizing his aggressive marketing and sales strategies, it's kind of torn.